such a big storm. I mean, just look at Jacksonville. I mean, right now we've got video where it's showing there's your pier. I mean, and that's nowhere near. This is a storm that's on the complete other side of the state in another body of water, and it's still doing that. And obviously, if you get closer to the Gulf side, over toward Fort Myers, that's where the winds continue to pick up. We've had a lot of Facebook Lives. A lot of folks continue to show what's happening in these areas. But the end result is this will weaken. It has strengthened as much as it's going to do so. So it continues to move north. The eye wall continues to collapse, and the winds and the energy kind of expand outward a little bit. So what does that mean to us? No changes. Originally, if you think about it, we were saying, okay, we're looking at 75 to 90 as this comes in, which is what's happening right now, by the way, in the southern counties. It's going to get worse. But in terms of the eye wall itself, it's moving north now. And I mean, it might jog a little bit left, a little bit right. It's always possible. But as I said, because it's picked up its forward speed, I don't think that's going to happen. So all you pretty much have to do is draw. In fact, we're going to get a new update in about 45 seconds, I think, if it's still moving north. And that's always an important thing to watch. But you can draw a line straight up to the north. That takes you into central Polk County. So it's in. You guys pot up Shay's mic?
Still moving north at 14 miles per hour and max sustained wind still at 110.
There you go. So it's a Category 2 hurricane. It's moving straight north, and it's picked up its forward speed. So you look around Fort Myers. I mean, there's the eye wall, and we've got video live from Fort Myers, and that is a Facebook Live where those winds right there, I would guesstimate about 80 or 90. And the water is something I'm still concerned about in our area. The wind, believe it or not, and let's not minimize the wind at all, but we talk about an 85 to a 95 mile an hour wind field. For us, that's a Category 1 / minimal 2 hurricane. It's going to do damage. It's going to knock down trees. It's going to take out power. You're going to have roof damage. All of the things that we had with Francis and Jean back in 2004. In fact, if you were around back then, I think it's going to be a very similar impact the way this is going to end up playing out for that part of it. Now, Port Charlotte, I know we also are just beginning to get some of that water, although it's still south of Port Charlotte, so I'm guessing, yeah, there's Mike Paluska, and, they're beginning to pick up some gusty winds. In fact, he called me a couple of minutes ago. He's like, Dennis, am I in the right spot? I go, yeah, oh yeah, just wait a half hour. You'll be in the right spot. So definitely, Mike, out there live, things have been deteriorating pretty quickly out there over the last couple of minutes, yes?
Yeah, Dennis, I haven't had to duck and go into full-on crouch mode at all today, except for right in this moment. And it's about to hit right now. It is coming in, and it upticked a little. We've been seeing these gusts. We thought that it was just, woo! Sorry. We thought that it was just, one of those gusts coming in, but now we notice this is more sustained. This is more 60 mile per hour sustained, and then heavier wind gusts. I haven't been able to look at the readings on my phone to try to figure out exactly what type of sustained winds we're in here in Port Charlotte, but I can send you our GPS location. You can pull that up for us. We have not seen anyone out. It has just steadily picked up, and as you can tell, the trees are whipping over there. Power lines are whipping. We have lost power. We have no electricity, and it is getting steady.
Okay, and Mike live, as we said, in Fort Myers, but because the center of this storm now looks like it's going pretty close to Polk County, let's head over to the EOC in Polk County for an update.
Our 20 shelters open, about 7,300 folks in the general population, special needs about 1,000, total sheltered available of 65,000 numbers, but more than 8,400 in there. So we've got, as you can see, quite a surplus of shelter spaces if people need them, and it's almost getting too late to go, but there is still some opportunity out there for them to get there. We do have pet shelters open also as well, about 1,000 people in there and about 600 pets. So we are having places to go with the people with pets. There are reports of downed trees throughout the county. Get some pictures in. Nothing of any kind of a specific nature or any kind of a damaging nature. No injuries or damages reported from that, but again, that's from the winds coming through. So we'll continue to stay on top of that, and if we get any reports of injuries or any other kind of damages, we'll let you know. And no reported flooding yet in the county. We do have some power outages. The TECO, which is more of our western part of our county, is indicating it's about 2,200 folks have lost power. Duke, which is in the eastern part of our county, about 1,200 folks have notified they're out of power. Lakeland Electric, which services Lakeland and its general area, has about 1,300. Now, there were some other outages early in the day from Lakeland Electric, but those have been resolved. So now the number's down to about 1,300 and working those. And as you said earlier, no injuries or damages, serious damages really reported from anything that we've had so far. We did note earlier in some press releases that there were some wastewater facilities experiencing issues, and Kevin can give you the full list of those when we're finished here. But they are working on those right now, our utilities folks. And really that kind of gives an up-to-date where we are. We have been receiving briefings from the state through the National Hurricane Center and getting information from across the state of what's going on. So the damages and the winds and the storm continues to creep up the coast. Certainly expected here later on this evening, early tomorrow morning. It looks as though the storm has started to diminish a little bit, which is good news for us. But again, we're going to keep that vigilant eye and stay tuned to what's happening throughout the rest of the night and early morning, just in case we need to help our folks in response some way. So with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
How much wastewater has spilled?
I don't have a figure on that. We can get that for you, though.
And what exactly are you doing to clean that up, make sure it doesn't get into the groundwater and streams and things like that?
And again, I'm not sure what the utilities' effort is right now, if they can even go out in the conditions that there are, but we will search that answer for you and get it to you. Yes, ma'am.
Once again, total without power right now?
Total without power looks like about 4,500, approximately. My math is fast enough to do that.
Typically, what do you tell them about expectations getting that power?
It really depends upon the nature of the storm and if those agencies are able to get their crews out to work in it in the conditions that are out there. So they may be able to get out there before it really gets too bad. Again, depends where it is. If it's remote, they may not be able to get to it until later.
How much extra space did you say there is in the shelter?
I'm sorry?
How much extra space in the shelter did you say there is?
Looks like there's about 65,000 available spaces, so there's only, I think the last number I heard is about 15%. It may be a little bit more than that as far as capacity right now. Now, our special needs shelters are running at about 70%, but that's our general population shelters. And to answer your question, sir, I just got a word that there has been no spillage. No, just that the power is bad at those particular stations. It may go at some time, but right now there's none.
Even with the hurricane possibly weakening, do you still want people to stay off Polk County roads?
Absolutely. There's going to be strong storms and strong bands coming through. The hurricane may be weakening, and we may wind up getting continual winds of a low hurricane nature, 75, 85, something like that, still significant winds. But those bands coming through will have gusts that are up to, Category 3 level gusts, plus rain, driving rain, and lots of rain. So the streets are just not going to be real safe to be driving, especially at night. And if we start losing more power, obviously that's going to compound the issue.
Some of the traffic lights are out?
I haven't heard of traffic lights being out, no, but it certainly could happen as power goes down. Not traffic lights as well as street lights, so they could lose those as well. So,
I guess just in general, from the county administration standpoint, are you guys a little relieved to see that the storm might be weakening? Or
no,
no,
I won't go that far. Certainly, it's a good sign, but again, we've seen this hurricane track from the east coast all the way to the west coast. We have never wavered on the fact that it's going to impact us one way or the other. We've tried to keep our eye on the worst possible case, and so that's why we've got, really, we think, probably a lot more sheltering space than we needed to have, but just in case the storm did get bad, we wanted to make sure we had that capability. The same thing holds true with the rest of our planning across the board. Plan for the worst, and we can always shut things down if it goes by and nothing significant happens. We don't see that from all indications. Something's going to happen. Now, how significant and how bad, how many people will be impacted, we don't know. That's obviously the wild card. But there will be impacts. There will be flooding. There will be wind damage to places. So we just need to make sure, hopefully, we can get that minimized, and then make sure when the winds stop blowing, we can get out there, get our damage assessment teams and our other folks out to assess and to find where the people are, where the damages are, and do what we can to assist them.
What's the impression you're getting? Are people evacuating from those areas, those vulnerable areas?
We're getting some. We really haven't had a chance to evaluate specific areas, mobile home parks, manufacturing areas, and things like that to get a real true census of where they're coming from and what they're doing. But again, we're hoping that they're doing it. But we just want to make sure we have the shelter space available to them so they can avail themselves of that. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Are you listening to the Polk County Emergency Operations Center there, giving you an update from an area that is expected to get some decent winds when this hurricane comes through.
That's right. So if you're in place, you need to hunker down and stay in place, because we've got another 10 to 12, 14 hours of this.
Yeah, we'll be right here with you as we go along for it.
Every step of the way.
All right, right now power outages starting to pick up across the Bay Area.
Yeah, our Paul Legrone has a woman from Lakeland on the phone right now. Paul?
Yeah, that's right, guys. Power is out, and look at this. The trees are down, this massive oak tree, and then this other oak tree here. The person who took these pictures on the phone with me right now, Melissa Cruz. Melissa, where were you when you took these pictures?
I was actually in my car. I am staying at a friend's house about a mile away, and I was actually in my car and took those pictures.
And this is in your neighborhood, right?
This is in my neighborhood, in my front yard.
Wow, and those are some massive oak trees, Melissa, and luckily no one was around when these things toppled down.
No, thank the good Lord, no one was around, and it missed all the houses on our street.
Now, where that happened, though, did the power go out on that street because of this?
Yes, all the houses on the street are without power. It took down 3 large electric lines.
Wow, and so you're just about a mile away from that now, sort of hunkered down, and you still have power at your location about a mile away from where these pictures were taken?
Exactly. I do still have power, although we've had several flickers as the wind picks up, but luckily we still have power.
And are there any trees around the location where you are now? Any big trees?
There are just one in the backyard. It's a fairly young tree, so I think that we are safe there.
Okay, you're at a good location. Melissa Cruz, thank you so much, and please be safe. And you can just see the power of this wind, and we're not even in the thick of this yet, and trees are getting toppled over. So, and then you've got that on top of the power lines that are above ground in this particular area. Yeah, power's going to go out.
Yeah, and it is concerning, as Jameson had mentioned earlier, that when this storm hits us, head on, and the winds are going to be much worse, it's going to be in the middle of the night, and it's going to be very dark out, and we're not going to see a tree in the middle of the road.
Right.
So that's
until you wake up in the morning. And there's going to be
you've got to stay inside.
Stay inside. Yeah, and there's a big curiosity factor because you're going to hear things outside. You're going to want to know what was that. But really, it's going to be when you wake up in the morning, the sun comes up, even though there's going to be some winds out there, even when the sun comes up tomorrow, and you're going to see some of the aftermath and some of the damage, you're going to be surprised.
Right,
you're going to see a lot of trees like that.
Right, and not to mention the live power lines that are so very dangerous,
that's the next issue. You're going to see a lot of power lines down, too. A lot of folks moving here into the Bay Area, moving to Florida, have never been through this, and a lot of folks have never been through this, even though they've lived in Florida before.
Absolutely.
Power lines and trees are going to be down in a lot of places, so watch yourself out there.
Right. Well, before Hurricane Irma even hit, some teens in New Jersey went to work putting together hygiene kits to be sent to hurricane victims right here in Florida in the coming days. So sweet.
ABC Action News reporter Adam Walzer joins us now with more about their volunteer efforts. Adam.
That's right, Jameson. Teenagers from Hamilton, New Jersey went through Hurricane Sandy almost 4 years ago. Because they appreciated help from all over the country, they decided to start efforts early to help hurricane victims here in Florida, and they're reaching out now on social media to try to encourage others to assist in their effort as well. The group of friends collected money and supplies last week as they watched the storm approach. They spent today assembling care packages, which they'll be delivering to the American Red Cross to be shipped to the hardest hit hurricane victims in Florida next week to help them as they begin the recovery process. Now they're posting information on Facebook, YouTube, and other sites to try to get others involved in their effort. Michael's mom, who organized this, Lauren Oletta, shot this video of them at work a little while ago.
Hello, Florida. This is my son, Michael. Say hello.
Hello.
This is Anthony.
Hi.
This is Zach.
Hi.
And they would like to be known as the Hamilton heroes that are stuffing personal hygiene packages for the Floridians.
Kind of a long title there. Those 13-year-old boys hope to raise enough money and collect enough supplies to deliver 2,000 kits to the American Red Cross later this week. I have more information about their efforts posted on the Adam Wilser iTeam page. You can go there and check it out. Back to you guys.
Oh, what great boys. That's great. Thank you, Adam, for that story. So nice to see, because I know for a lot of folks, including myself, I evacuated pretty quickly, and especially if you're going to a shelter, you have probably the clothes on your back, and that's about it.
A lot of times, and you realize, oh, I forgot to pack something when you get there.
So
yeah,
thank
those
you
are
to
great.
those boys in New Jersey. Very sweet. Well, just in the last half hour, Pasco County asking people to stay inside, implementing a curfew that goes into place at 7 p.m.
ABC Action News reporter Lauren Rosella is live for us in Pasco County at the Emergency Operations Center. Lauren, what's the biggest concern out there?
The biggest concern, guys, is the winds that you can really see are picking up right now. And look, you can even see all of that water on the lens of the camera. That is because the rain is literally going sideways out here. We've been feeling some really strong gusts out here. So we're here at the Emergency Operations Center where these workers have been, just working tirelessly to, vet out this storm. They're all staying actually over here in the jail overnight. So they've got about a couple hundred cots set up out there. Now, the biggest thing they're saying now, after all that hard work inside, when 7 p.m. comes, they want you off the road. And they say, if you want to pop out for a second, it might be okay. But listen to what they say the biggest concern is.
What we don't want you to do is get in your car and drive around the neighborhood. That could be a dangerous thing because you may not get home before that next squall, that next line of wind hits.
Okay, guys, back out here live. So what I asked, okay, so if you break this order and you do go outside during your car, what happens? Well, they say it's a misdemeanor, but again, it's not really a question of whether or not it's a misdemeanor. It's a question of your own safety. So as these winds come and start to pick up, we don't know when these heavy gusts are really going to start to blow in here into this area. We're feeling it intermittently. You want to make sure you are sheltering in place, that you stay in one place. Don't get in your car and drive around and try and kind of see what's out in the neighborhood. For now, reporting live in Pasco County, Lauren Rosella, ABC Action News.
Good advice. Thank you, Lauren. Well, shelters are full of people and pets, but actually one shelter in Hillsborough County became an impromptu pet shelter just because of the need.
Yeah, ABC Action News reporter Rodney Dunnigan is in Plant City at one shelter to tell us what happened.
For the past few hours, we've been telling you about the great work being done by the staff here at Turkey Creek Middle School to help so many people and so many families. More than 300 people seeking shelter here so far, but they are not forgetting those four-legged friends. And of course, many of those families thankful that their pets are being allowed inside also.
It is an extension of their family, and they didn't want to leave them behind. So it's a necessary service, and it's an honor to be able to do that for all of our families.
Families here thankful their pets allowed too. So far, the shelter here at Turkey Creek Middle housing 25 dogs and 6 cats. This wasn't initially a pet shelter, but the need was so great they opened it up. No doubt a sigh of relief for many of these families, looking for a piece of normalcy as they brace for what's to come.
We went to actually 5 other shelters before this that were full until we got to this one, and we were afraid we couldn't get our dog in and kind of panicked a little bit, but they said, yeah, we could come in, so I just not knowing where you're going to go and stuff like that.
For now, this locker room will remain home for these animals as everyone here simply hopes for the best and that the storm rolls through without any serious damage. Back to you.
All right, Rodney, thank you. And just outside in Tampa, wind is starting to pick up.
ABC Action News reporter Chris Welch is near Waters in Dale Mabry with the latest conditions there. Chris?
Well, we are here in North Tampa. Just take a look around. I want to set the scene here. Really, for the last couple of hours, maybe within the last hour, it's really started to pick up. You started to see those winds blow just a little bit harder. The rains come down just a little bit harder. Take a look. You can see some of these palms blowing as those gusts come and go. If you look down, you can see puddles. You can see the wind has sort of really given you a little bit of a visual cue of what some of those gusts can do. Let me sort of show you where we are in reference to the city of Tampa. Behind me is West Waters Avenue. We've seen cars coming and going. Of course, emergency officials telling everyone stay inside at this point if you don't have to be out there. But I have to tell you, we are seeking shelter at a La Quinta Inn, at a hotel here in North Tampa. So we have met people today who are coming here from their homes. They're not necessarily in those mandatory evacuation zones, but they live nearby. They say maybe they've seen lakes nearby that are near their houses. They don't want to take chances. They have trees in their yard that are swaying. They don't want to risk it, so they have sought shelter here. That's exactly what we're going to do tonight as we ride out the storm. Chris Welch, ABC Action News.
Chris, thank you. Tampa braces for Hurricane Irma, and obviously many residents worried what this storm will do.
ABC Action News reporter Matthew Smith is in Tampa with more on that.
It started slowly but continues to intensify.
Kind of scary. I mean, this is the first.
Marceli Medina has never been through a hurricane. As palm fronds begin to sway in the parking lot of her hotel, she's starting to worry.
Trying to keep away, and I got stuck here in Tampa.
Medina packed up and came to Tampa from Lakeland. The storm shifted, and now, like so many others, she's stuck here to ride it out.
That's what it's about, unity in numbers.
For 90 years, avoided this day, but I think our day has come.
Tampa's mayor is making it clear residents need to be ready. And part of the reason that curfew has been enacted, not just for the winds, but because on the backside, he said he's expecting mass power outages.
I don't really understand what to do. We were told that we needed water. We went to the store. There was no water.
This woman made the decision not to hop on a cruise to head to Cuba earlier this week. Unfortunately for her, she couldn't get back home before the storm hit.
I have had 6 plane cancellations.
But the good news, at least in this location, someone brought their therapy dog. And so far, he's doing his job. People here are staying calm. In Tampa, Matthew Smith, ABC Action News.
Meantime, Duke Energy is reporting a total of 45,000 customers across the state of Florida dealing with power loss just at this hour. But the storm has not hit their most populated service area in Pinellas County.
ABC Action News Taking Action reporter Jackie Calloway was able to get Duke on the line, and she joins us now. Jackie?
Yeah, we've got some new numbers in for you. We understand that a total of 14,000 TECO customers in the Bay Area without power, 13,000 Duke Energy customers, a total of 2.7 million Floridians right now without power. Anna Gibbs is with Duke Energy. Anna, thank you for joining us. Does that sound about accurate to you? 13,000 Duke Energy customers without power in Tampa Bay?
Well, so we have probably at this point a little bit more than that. For example, in Pinellas County, we have about 17,000 customers. And just based on your station's coverage area, I would say that we're, as every moment goes by, we're getting a little bit higher and higher. And of course, as we go throughout this evening, our prediction is that our forecast is that we'll have about 1 million out by the time the storm's over, and that's throughout the state, of course.
So many people out there asking, how long will it be out? How long will it be out? A lot of people thinking it's going to be a week. You and I were talking yesterday, and you said not necessarily. What can people expect?
That is absolutely correct. So we are asking that people be prepared for power to be out for a week. But, of course, we are definitely hoping to restore sooner than that. And some of the things that we didn't talk about yesterday is once the storm passes, one of the first things you're going to see are basically pickup trucks that are going to be coming through your neighborhoods. And we don't want people to panic and think the pickup trucks are coming through and leaving you behind. The pickup trucks are assessing the damage, and they're calling back to our dispatch and letting them know what kind of materials they need to fix the damage. So that's what you're probably going to see first before you see the big, those big bucket trucks rolling in. So just to get an idea of what you're going to see tomorrow.
You guys have mobilized 8,000 workers to come in after the dangerous portion of the winds and rain subside. Won't there in many cases be people who will be able to get power back much sooner than a week?
Absolutely. So we are hoping that we can definitely get power back on sooner than a week. And so it really has to do with, it depends what kind of damage or what kind of problem there is that's causing the power that's out. For example, if it's a fuse, we can get that back on pretty quickly. However, if it is something like a power pole that has to be replaced, that takes several hours. And of course, it's important to remember that we do have to give priority, of course, to hospitals, emergency responders such as 911 call centers or law enforcement officers. So we definitely have a priority list that we have to go through just to make sure that those essential services can continue to run, and we have to get power back to them first.
One thing I haven't heard is what's the breaking point, so to speak? Like, what kind of winds do we have to be seeing for the power lines to start snapping, or more the lines going down than the poles snapping in half? Is there kind of like a limit to how much wind shear they can take?
Well, I think I can put it in a better perspective this way. So it's really dependent because you can just imagine it's basically what's flying into our line. So it could be often a tree branch that flies into our line. It could be debris. So it's whatever wind it takes to pick whatever that object is. So that's a little bit more difficult to predict. But what I can share with you is that once we get to about 30 miles per hour winds, our own bucket trucks can't really respond for safety reasons. Our bucket trucks, those buckets that you see going up in the air, they reach anywhere from 40 to 50 feet, and then our transmission buckets actually reach all the way above 100 feet. So the weather is limiting in a lot of ways, even for our response. So it just depends the situation.
I take it that you will go to the areas where the wind has left first. You'll be starting down south and then working your way up as the storm goes away.
Definitely. So we do, like we just talked about, we definitely have to wait for the winds to clear. And then another thing to consider is those flooded areas and, of course, all the debris. So it's just a bunch of factors that you have to take into consideration and how we respond, and things that have to, whether it's the water receding, the clear debris to come through, or the debris clearing to come through, and then and for our trucks to be able to roll in and then start that power restoration. But we are definitely prepared. As you mentioned, 8,000 crews. They are standing by, ready to restore as soon as it's safe to do so.
Anna, my last question for you is, where can people go to find out how much longer it'll take to get the power back on after the storm blows over? They've been at home, they've been without for a day or two, and they want to know, when will I get it back? Where can they go?
So we suggest duke-energy.com. Again, that's duke-energy.com. That's going to absolutely give you the best information because it's an entire webpage that's dedicated to Irma. Okay. And then additionally, we do ask if you are out, please feel free to let us know. We definitely want to let you know, notify us that you're out through the website.
Anna, thank you so much for your time. Have a good rest of your night. Again, she's talking about duke-energy.com with information for their customers. Wendy?
Some good information. Thank you, Jackie. We have some pretty wild video coming down on our feeds. Take a look. This is a transformer in Naples blowing in the middle of the storm.
Yeah, you see there on the right side of your screen there, that blue explosion there. That's going to be happening. There you go, another one. That's going to be happening a lot. Once this storm, once we're really in the thick of this storm, that is the one thing that's going to happen. When the power starts going out, you're going to hear those kind of popping in your neighborhood or out on the road. That is something that is very, very typical when you get these high winds, and it's just something else.
It could be really startling, I imagine, too, because you don't know where it's coming from. And it happened, I remember, during Jake Peterson's live shot when he was in, I think he was in Sarasota. Yeah. And you could hear this pop, 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 and it almost sounds like it's a cross between like a gun and a little bit of lightning, and I don't know what it is.
Yeah. As a reporter standing out in Charlie and Francis and Jean years ago, you're standing out there and you're just hearing the wind and the rain whipping around, and then all of a sudden you start hearing that popping going on behind you, and you jump.
I'm sure, yeah.
Because you have no idea what it is.
I mean, you're already, you're tense, you're and you're already stressed out because of the storm, and then you got that going on.
All right. Well, we want to get out to Riverview now.
Yeah, right. Our Adam Weiner is there. He's been there all day at a shelter. Adam, has the place reached capacity yet where you are?
Yeah, well, they did reach capacity a little while ago, but they did tell us they were going to not turn anybody away if they were going to show up. But they had over 300 animals here, over 700. Actually, I think it was over 800 people they just announced recently here at Barrington Middle School. It's in the Riverview community near Fishhawk. We are, of course, east of Tampa, and so we are starting to get what I would say are worsening conditions. For the most part, though, wind gusts, but certainly nothing too tough to stand out in, and rain that is very consistent, certainly becoming more consistent out here, but for the most part, nothing torrential yet, I would say. But at Barrington Middle, they haven't had anybody really new show up recently, and they tell me they are going to be locking the doors any moment now. We actually see some branches coming down, so we are definitely seeing worsening conditions and trees starting to lean over just a bit. But again, they are going to be locking the doors. They announced that to the entire 800 or so people who are going to be hiding out here, people from all over. I also talked to a lot of people who had fled low-lying areas, mobile homes, including one of the last people to show up at Barrington Middle came from Marco Island. That place we just saw had landfall from Hurricane Irma. She tells me that she boarded up her home for days all by herself overnight and then drove up here to Sun City. Car broke down. Then she ended up in a home that she found out might not be safe either. And that is when she talked to a deputy who told her that this place would not turn her away. We talked to her just as she stored away her 6 pets here, that again, they wouldn't turn away. This is what she said to us.
But I don't know anything that's happened at home. I haven't had contact with my aunt in a while. She said the eye was about to hit and her phone went dead, and I kind of expected that. So she's on a 2nd-story condo down there, and I'm just praying, you know. I'm already prepared. The house will probably be gone.
You can just imagine the anxiety and the fear that she was dealing with. She made the right decision. She left what was a mobile home in Marco Island that was going to be potentially taken away by the storm surge we're hearing about, could be coming overnight. And I got to say, just in the past few minutes, we've definitely seen things worsen. And I know Dennis Phillips is going to tell me we haven't seen nothing yet. I get that. But on a normal thunderstormy day, this is a lot worse than that. And there's a lot of people who are taking shelter now that this was filled with people just a moment ago. This was people out and about. They were enjoying the fact that they could be outside, and now they are closing up the doors. You see some of the deputies doing that. I'm going to throw it back to you guys in the studio, but I do hope to have updates for you through the evening for the folks here.
All right. Stay safe out there. So, Dennis, it is going to get worse, isn't it?
I was going to ask him, Adam, you haven't seen nothing yet. He's right, because a lot worse is on the way. But boy, in the last 24 hours, our emotions have been all over the place with this storm. We've had the possibility it went from a 3 to a 4, and then there was the hint that it could have gone even stronger. Well, this is the latest advisory, okay? And while we have got a very rough night ahead of us, and I will tell you, this center is not going to be around for another 7 or 8 hours. Let me be very clear. The worst of this weather is on the top side of this storm. So the reality is, from now, where right now power is already out in Sarasota County, power is already out in Highlands County, they are feeling some of the worst winds they're going to experience. And that is going to be moving north through the Bay Area. But if you look at the latest track and the latest conditions, and we've been saying this for about 5 or 6 hours now, pretty clear, as long as we see northerly winds, that is overall a very good thing. Well, here's something else. So look where this is supposed to be at 2 a.m. Category 1 hurricane near the Bay Area. And personally, this track is going to be more to the east. I can guarantee you that, because this is moving due north. You just look at a map, and due north will put this into the central part of Polk County as a Category 1 hurricane. So we've been talking about all these high numbers, these 3s and these 4s, and you see this video, this incredible video over the last week or two of all these islands that are devastated by this hurricane. And it's easy to say, oh, well, okay, great. I have a 1. It was a 4. I've got nothing to worry about. A hurricane, this is still going to be some of the heaviest weather we have ever seen in the Bay Area here in a long, long time. Now, absolutely, it's better than it was looking like yesterday. I'll take a 1 over a 3 any day. But a Category 1 hurricane with winds of 85 miles an hour and gusts up to 100 is still going to knock down trees. It's still going to knock down power. It's still going to have issues with roofs. And we're going to have this for quite a while. We're going to have a lot of cleaning up to do. But compared to what we were talking about yesterday and some of the numbers that were floating around, this at least looks like we can deal with it. We got some work to do, and we're going to have a lot of it to do over the next several weeks, if not the next several months. But this track, I don't think is going to change. North winds at 14, it's picking up its forward speed, which means it's less likely to throw us into a little loop, a little curve, a little wobble. It's far less likely because a trough has got Irma in its grasp and picking it up, forcing it faster. And when that happens, it's like a snowball downhill. It's not going to turn right or left very often. It's usually just going to take the path that it's on. So winds of 110 miles an hour, that is a Category 2 hurricane. So that's all the good news. And there's a lot of it. And also, by the way, surge is going to be an issue later on tonight regardless, even if it does continue to weaken, because it's such a big storm and it's coming at high time. We still have tornado warnings over on the east side, and you can bet your bottom dollar we're going to have them in our area too over the next several hours, and there's why. I mean, we talked about what was down to the south. Well, now that is on top of us, and we have had a lot of reports from our southern counties with winds 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. In fact, I think one of the heaviest bands right now is just about ready to come into Sarasota. In fact, Shay, could you go ahead and stop this and kind of zoom in to the area here in Sarasota? Because this looks to be one of the heaviest, and clearly there's why. It's much closer to the center. So Sarasota County, extending to Hardy, southeastern Polk, and Highlands, you're picking up a very heavy band of wind and rain at hurricane force. Obviously, the rain is going to be incredibly heavy. Rainfall rates, there they are. But I'm far more concerned about the wind because at this point of the time, there's your center, and that's where the heaviest wind is. And there's Fort Myers right now, a live shot of Fort Myers, where winds, we had a report about 5 or 10 minutes ago near the eye wall of winds about 110 miles an hour. Now, compared to what they had an hour ago in Naples, where it was 142, we're clearly headed in the right direction. But let's not forget what we're going to deal with. We have all those beautiful trees all around this area that have never been exposed to some kind of wind like we're going to get tonight. And some of those trees are going to come down, and unfortunately on houses and on cars. And the surge is still something we'll talk about in a second. But your eye is right here. There's your northern eye wall, and it's going to be moving north. Now, as it goes over land, it loses its energy source. Can you switch it from rainfall to wind and see if we at least have any kind of a wind number? Because usually it's not going to show up that well. The wind gust numbers that we're showing are about 60 to 70 across our southern counties. But regardless, this is going to continue to move due north, and that will not be changing. So that's good news. But these bands, the same area that pushed the water out of the bay, watch what's happening in Naples now. It's past it latitudinally, and it's pushing it back in. Naples rebounded in an hour and a half, 7 feet with the water. How crazy is that? 7 feet. So there's a look at wind gusts, and as we said, winds gusting 60 to 70 miles an hour across our southern counties, which is still tropical storm force. But we were actually showing a hurricane force wind gust in Lake Placid last hour. Haines City right now, wind gust of 70 miles an hour. That's what's amazing about this storm. Believe it or not, some of the heavier wind reports have been on the East Coast compared to the West. Miami has had wind gusts over 100 miles an hour, and it lasted way past when Irma had moved north and was still on the West Coast. And it reminded me a lot of Wilma. Remember in Wilma, moved on shore in Naples, the first report was 130 mile an hour winds, not in Naples, in Miami. So this is similar to Wilma in terms of it's just a spacious hurricane, and the wind has been spread out. But at least, like we said, the center of the storm now over land, it's picking up its speed, so it's being sheared, and that means it is going to weaken. All right, current winds across the area, as we said, 40, 50. These will quickly increase over the next several hours, and the gusts obviously even higher than that. And I think the gusts are something that you're going to hear tonight, because once we have sunset, have we had sunset yet? No. Once we get to sunset, and everything gets dark and the power goes out, you will hear how these winds gust. They have a tendency to get really loud and then pull back for a minute or two, and they get really loud again. And that's going to go on for about 8 hours. I had a couple of folks say, should I just sleep through this storm tonight? You're not going to be able to sleep through this storm tonight because it's going to be that loud. But at least, again, we are talking about numbers that are lower than what originally the forecast was just 24 hours ago. And it's a thing we just say over and over again with tropical weather systems. You just never know. There's always the possibility that something might turn around and benefit you. Now, I'm not going to belittle what we're going to deal with tonight, again, and this is the main reason. I mean, right here in this red area, that entire red area expected to have hurricane force winds, something we've not had here in forever. So right off the bat, we're talking about something that we're not used to, and a lot of new folks in the area as it is. Now, again, it's not 130, 140. It might be 90, it might be 80, it might be 85, gusts up to 100, but it's still lower than when you start seeing structural damage. So you go through 10 o'clock tonight and look, all of a sudden those winds are covering the southern half of our area, mostly Tampa, Hillsborough County, Polk County, Pinellas County south. Pasco, you're just getting into it. That's through 10 o'clock tonight. But even in the areas down south, they're still seeing it. But I will tell you, in my opinion, the heaviest weather is north of the center. Once we get past the north side, I think you're going to start to notice some deterioration of the wind, first of all, because the storm will continue to weaken, and second of all, the backside seems to be slowly but surely caving in on itself a little bit. So that's not going to change with a big storm. This is still 2 a.m. I mean, there you go. 75-mile-an-hour winds will cover the entire area. So it isn't like one of our afternoon thunderstorms, and that's actually a pretty good idea to compare that to, because our afternoon storms are about 60 miles an hour, and they usually last about 10 minutes. And within that 10 minutes, they're really rough. Well, these are going to last closer to 6 to 8 hours. That's why trees will eventually give, along with all the rain, with the power outages. So this is a very serious situation. Cannot minimize that at all. It just looks a lot better than it did 24 hours ago. And then later on, there's even the talk there could be minimal hurricane. I think more strong tropical storm force winds are reasonable for areas in Tallahassee, even though a big storm usually takes a little bit longer for it to fizzle out, because just like it takes a little bit longer usually for it to grow, it's just such a spacious storm that it isn't like a little storm that can fizzle out within 6 to 12 hours. So again, this is your forecast track. It's a 2 now. It will be a 1 probably after midnight before it impacts us directly with the eye. And by then it won't even have an eye probably. It may. But the point is, most of the heaviest weather is just north and east of that center anyway. And that line is still Polk County, Hardee, DeSoto, and Highlands County. Areas to the west will have weaker winds, but still strong enough to bring down trees and power outages and whatnot. So I think you kind of get where we're going here. We're not saying, we're not saying what a relief, because it's going to be a very rough night. It's just not going to be as bad, nearly as bad as it could have been.
Unknown computer
930
found.
millibars, 110 miles an hour, moving north at 14. We'll have a new update coming up in about 20 minutes from the Hurricane Center, guys.
All right, thanks, Dennis. I want to get to some breaking news out of Pasco County right now. We've just learned that there's a mandatory curfew, begins at 7 p.m. tonight, so that means it's about 20 minutes away, and it's actually until tomorrow, Monday at 11 a.m., and I have to imagine that's to make sure that they can clean up the streets, make sure that they know where the live power lines are to shut the electricity off and all that. So again, that curfew in place for Pasco from 7 p.m. tonight in 20 minutes until 11 a.m. on Monday.
Yeah, a lot of cities, a lot of counties implementing curfews that have already gone into effect, as a matter of fact, as I'm looking at the clock there. And we're also expecting to get some, excuse me as I lost my mic here, folks.
Oh, well, I will tell you, Polk County, I believe they had a curfew 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And a lot of other counties, I think Hillsborough also has a curfew as well. What they're just telling you is, wherever you are, stay put and don't go out and don't get on the roads and don't try to find out what that loud sound was, because it's just not worth it.
And it's a smart move by Pasco County. They're extending it till 11 a.m. tomorrow because, as Dennis and Shay have been telling us, we're going to get tropical storm force winds well into the day tomorrow. So a lot of debris, and if people start wandering out, that debris is still going to be flying around out there tomorrow morning. So got to be careful out there. A lot of power outages going on, as a matter of fact. They just kind of keep accumulating with every passing minute. We want to remind you again, if the power goes out and you can't get our ABC Action News app, you can listen to us, this live broadcast, at ABC Action News, updates with all of our radio partners, 99.5 WQIK, Q105, Wild 94.1, B 98.7, and 92.5 Maxima. They are simulcasting our newscast that you're watching right now. It is on the radio. So when that storm is passing through your town, your county, you can stay right on top of it. As that storm is going over your head, you can be listening to Dennis and Shay as they're going to be walking you through this all night long.
And we want to remind you, too, if you do have electricity, charge your phone, because once that electricity goes out, you won't be able to text your friends and your family, and you won't be able to possibly do anything as far as listening to what's going on unless you have a radio, which, as you mentioned, all those stations. But if your phone is charged, at least you'll be able to get our ABC Action News app and follow Dennis's updates throughout the night and into tomorrow morning. So please charge your phones if you have electricity right now.
Yeah, right now our Clifton French is on the phone with us in Fort Myers, where Irma has been hitting that area hard. Clifton.
Yeah, I don't know if Dennis is around and kind of tell us exactly where this is, but from what we can tell, it looks like we're right on the edge of that the northern part of the eye wall. My in-laws have a house down here. It's a well-built house, so this is where we decided to come down and take shelter. I'm currently here with actually some old friends of mine. They ended up needing to leave their home that was in a storm surge evacuation zone, so they ended up heading this way as well to get out of that area, as the shelters and stuff were also all filling up. But
Cliff,
just a lot of wind.
Cliff, we're looking at video right now. Are you driving, or is this video from? Are you driving, or you actually stay put?
No. We stay put.
Okay, so we're watching. So as you're speaking, Cliff, just to clarify, as you're speaking, we're watching someone who's driving and also recording a Facebook Live. So we just wanted to clarify, because they're kind of looking like they're going all over the road, and so I was concerned for your safety personally.
No.
So I'm glad you're hunkered down inside a home. Okay.
And just to give you an idea here, Clifton, of what we're looking at, it looks like it's I-75 down there in Fort Myers, and there is a ton. It is Fort Myers, and there's a ton of debris on the interstate. It is unbelievable how much debris is on the interstate, and that's exactly why they tell people to get off the roads, because this car is going 25 miles an hour trying to get around these tree branches and all this debris on the interstate.
Well, we're just looking at. I mean, there is. I can see outside through the back porch. The wind is coming from the other direction. I can see. It really just looks white from the wind and the rain coming through. I do know that obviously some trees have come down. There was one tree back here that I don't see anymore. I don't know if it's being obscured by the wind and the rain, but I would believe that it's gone, or that it's on the ground somewhere. But for the most part, everything is fine. It's just been a little loud in certain areas, and the roof did spring a few leaks. So right now we have pots and pans and buckets.
All right. Do you still have electricity?
We still have electricity.
That's good. That is good.
Believe it or not.
For now.
For now, yeah. Look, in this neighborhood, I don't see any above ground power lines. It looks like they're all underground.
That's nice.
And so I think that's what's keeping us with power for now. It has been going in and flickering like you would expect, in and out. A couple of breakers have flipped, and then we've gone into the garage, flipped them back so we can get the TV back on, because the TV has been what gets shut off. Now the signal, so we're using an over-the-air signal, so the signal on the television to get information is pretty bad right now. But we are, we're safe, we're hunkered down, just like everybody else should be. But the wind, you look out here and the wind's bad. I wouldn't step out in it.
Right, we're actually looking at video of the wind, literally what looks like raining sideways in Fort Myers. So as you're talking about the wind, we're actually seeing the wind in this video from, I probably imagine, a Facebook Live of someone else in that area recording it. And it is very ominous, and certainly visibility is very, very poor. And it's treacherous. It's a good thing that you have hunkered down, because this does not look safe.
Clifton, what's your plan tonight?
Working. whatever you guys tell me to do.
Just giving you phone calls. You're going to stay put in there. I mean, I guess that's probably the best place to be.
I mean, I'm going to stay put. I'm going to stay put here really until Dennis tells me that it's okay.
Right.
To get out of here.
Right. Well, because I imagine you're in a neighborhood, right? You're not around tall buildings where you could hide under a major, building. You're in a neighborhood, correct?
Yeah, we are in a neighborhood. So there is an area, that in the back porch that I mean, this is a block house. It's a stable house. It's a sturdy house. There's an area that we could potentially get out into. We've decided not to do that at this point. The cell signal in here though is really, really bad. So we have our live capabilities that use cell signal. It's not working. So these phone calls is how we're having to communicate now.
Right.
Before you went inside there, Clifton, you were out there in Fort Myers for a while, and I have to mention that you used to live there. You used to work there. You know what that city looks like on a normal day. So what did it look like to you before you headed inside?
It was a ghost town. There were still a few people going around, but once these gusts started to pick up, we wanted to be close to where we were taking shelter.
Right.
So we started heading this direction, started feeding back a little bit of stuff, and I want to tell you about. We were at Fort Myers Beach this morning, and Fort Myers Beach. I've never seen the water that low.
Wow.
So as the storm was coming, starting to come through, it was pulling that water out, and that was the potential storm surge that's going to come in later when the storm moves through and then pushes that water back through. But the pier, the pilings from the pier were almost completely exposed.
Yeah.
It was pretty surreal. I mean, I've never been able to walk that far out on that beach.
Yeah, the same is true. That's interesting that you say that, because if it's like that in Fort Myers, the same was true in South Tampa on Bayshore. It was completely receded all the way out, very, very, very far. So it seems that this storm is doing this all over our counties, and it's an interesting. It's true, and what Dennis was saying is that once the storm does pass through, we're going to see 5 to 8 foot storm surges. So get ready, because when it does come, it will come quickly.
What kind of damage did you see before you went inside, Cliff?
Unknown computer found.
It was just starting. So we saw a couple of down trees, some broken branches. And then the palm fronds were flying across the road, and it was time to get close to here.
Wow.
Right.
I'm sure the damage is pretty bad in certain areas. I mean, like I said, in the house that we're in, it's really nice. I'm sure we've lost. They have the tile roof shingles. I'm sure we've lost a couple with the roof leaks that are here now. I mean, I don't really know. There's some pretty good. There's a pretty significant leak.
Yeah. Any guess how old that house is that you're in, by the way, Clifton? Just wondering.
2000, or maybe 2005.
Do you have storm shutters?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Storm shutters.
That's good.
I'm just trying to gauge here, because a lot of folks are wondering.